Well, welcome to Modeling Time with me, Brian Banna. Now that I've got the sill unit completely, detailed out, painted, and ready for a satin varnish, it's time to move on to the sub base. Now I call it the sub base because in the modeling community, that's what we've always called it, the cab sub base. That's not really what it is, but for our purposes, that's what I'm going to call it. What it really is basically equipment boxes and battery boxes. So, but we're going to call it sub base. So let me get the camera set up over here. And real quick, in the last video I was talking about the paint, and I told you that I use all-clad aqua gloss. Well, if you're going to use that, do not shake it. Let me repeat that. Do not shake it. Did I tell you? Do not shake it. I mean, do not shake it. If you use it after you shake it, you're going to get air bubbles in your finish. So just use it as it is. Never shake it. It's good to go as it is. So now that I got that out of the way, let me get the camera set up and let's go over what I'm going to do with these sub bases. Okay, so set up here. So the phase of the GP35 that I'm building is a phase 1C1. The Kato model is a straight phase 1C2. Now the difference between a 1C1 and a 1C2 are the battery boxes. So on the engineer's side battery box, it looks like a phase 1B. It looks like the battery box from a Kato phase 1A or phase 1B. This is a phase 1C battery box from Kato. And you can see it just has 3 sets of louvers. And you'll see that this has 3 sets of 3 louvers on the gray one. On the fireman's side or brakeman's side, the phase 1C1 has only 2 sets of louvers, like you see here. A 1C1 also has, like the Kato phase 1C, the type 2 radiator grills. So to build a phase 1C1, you need a Kato phase 1C and a sub base from a phase 1A or phase 1B. Now, what I was thinking of doing is cutting these sub bases and splicing them together, but then I was looking at it and I'm thinking, you know what? All I have to do, let me get a pointer out here. All I have to do is remove 4 louvers, 2 from each side, and then trim off this kick plate, or this step guard. You can see how much it sticks out right here. So all I have to do is trim off that step guard, and that builds me a phase 1C1 sub base. So I've got the normal, 3 sets of louvers, 3 sets of 3 louvers, and then I'll have 2 sets of 1 louver each. So I just have to be very, very careful and trim off those louvers. So I'm going to use a very sharp knife. I'm not going to do this on camera because I don't want to mess it up. I need to get in there and I need to put it at angles which probably won't be visible on camera. But it'll be using a using a new blade that's fresh and sharp. I'll slice those louvers off and then I'll come back and sand or I'll scrape them a little bit, and then I'll come back with some fine sandpaper and sand that out and then grit blast it to make sure everything disappears. Then I just have to come in here and cut that step guard off. Now I can probably put that in the mill because I have a block that I made that this fits into, and I can clamp it in the mill and I can just come in and shave it off because I need to build a plate around it, because you can see right here there's a little bit of a plate, or there's a plate that sticks out here. So I'll cut this back so that the plate edge is on that side also. So let me go ahead and get that done, and then you'll see what I got going with that. The other thing that needs to be done is I need to replace these steps. So I have these etch steps that I made. These steps are only for this front battery box step on the left side. The steps in the back there should be 2 steps. If you divide this evenly into 3 parts, then the division line between the 3 parts are steps. So the top step can be up against the back of this equipment box. The bottom step actually has to sit out here a bit. So I'll use, for these back steps, I'll use Canon and Company steps because I'll be able to glue plastic to plastic and such. So that pretty much takes care of what's going to be done to the sub base. So let me get that done and I'll show you what it all looks like. And of course I have to add the grab iron step to the front there. Well, the sub base is done and it just needs to be painted. So I really couldn't show on video what was going on because my hands would be in the way, you know, measuring, scraping, cutting, and all that kind of stuff. So I just built it and I'll go over what was done with it. Nothing really special. Everything that was done to this pretty much was, with the exception of cutting off the step guard, was pretty much very, very basic. So let me zoom in a little bit here. See if I can get this into focus. Zoom it out. How's that? Can we get that to focus? Come on. There we go. Okay. So starting, let me show you some things first. Now, I've got the louvers cut off of this side. Let me get a pointer out so we can get a little bit better on that. So I've got louvers cut off on this side, and of course they remain the same on this side. After I did that, I put this front step on. So I cut the step off that was there, but I left a shelf underneath. And then I made, oh wait, let me step back. After I did cut the louvers off, I cut the step guard off, and I told you I had a fixture for that. And that is this block, and there's some protrusions underneath here, so it won't fit perfectly on there now. But it fits like that, down tight. That way I was able to put it in the mill like that and cut that little step guard off. So that's a little tool I made for the Kato Gp35 sub base. Then I have a lot of photo etch that I had made a long time ago, and I just have never used it, so it's time to start using some of it. So this is my GP35 step set. So it's got all these stepwell steps, which you saw me put on before, and it also has these 2 steps. Now, I fed you wrong information in the last clip, and for the life of me, I don't know why I didn't remember it. Of all people, I should have remembered it because I did a big old RPM presentation on GP35s, and that is on the back step. There are not 2 individual steps, but there's a block with tread plate on it and then a step. So that actually worked out really well, and I like how it looks. So on my step sets, I have the front step here, which I made these steps for if I were to cut this step guard off. Gosh, I keep coming off camera. If I were to cut this step guard off, then this, and then make it out of 20,000 styrene or 15,000 styrene, then this step would fit perfectly. But I didn't do that, so I had to trim it a little bit. And if I ever remake some of this stuff, I'm going to make the step so it fits perfectly in without trimming off this step guard. And so I've got the step on the front. These steps do not have the holes on the leading edge, and that's correct for the prototype. On the back, I have the step, so there's 2 steps, and I also have the block. Now the block, I measured the Canon and Company block and subtracted 10 thousandths off of it because that's the thickness of the tread plate I put on it, and then I had these tread plate pieces made a long time ago, and these are specifically for this tread plate, and the tread plate size matches the Kato tread plate. So when I make this block, it matches the tread plate. So I've got that in there. Next is the step, or the grab iron step, and that's just titchy wire. I filled the holes, I trimmed off the NBW, that teardrop shape underneath, and I used these PBL. I've cut most of them off, but I don't know if you can see that. Here's two that are left on here. These are the grab iron NBWs, teardrop shape things. And I use these for a specific reason. And that reason will come into play, and I'll explain it to you when I get to working on the hood. But for right now, just understand I use PBL nut bolt washer details to replace the ones that were molded on. So right now this is ready for paint. So I'm going to put a coat of primer gray on it. It's already been grit blasted, that's why it has that dull metal or dull gray look to it, and the photo etched pieces have a brushed look to them. So everything's been grit blasted and it's ready for paint. So I'll put a primer coat of gray, the XF80 Royal Light Gray, and then I'll put my Brunswick green mix over that. There's nothing that has to be masked off or painted. The step edges were not painted yellow, although before I go and say that's the way it was, I'm going to check my photographs to make sure, but I'm pretty sure they weren't yellow. If they are yellow, you'll see it in the next in the next video that I do, and I'll update that. So that's basically it for the sub base. So now one thing I forgot to show you real quick is when I put my grab irons on, I have a long time ago, I keep saying a long time ago, but it's been a long time. Back when Gordon Cannon was still with us, he sent me a drawing of the EMD grab irons, and it gave me the standoff from the face of the hood or any other part that they were. And so I cut a piece of styrene that is the correct thickness, and I put that underneath the grab iron, and then push the grab iron. I put that underneath the grab iron, then push the grab iron down to it, glue it from behind and such. So the thickness is 0.043, or you could use 40 thousandths. 3 thousandths is really not that much and not noticeable. But the actual distance would be 0.043, and basically that's what I wanted to show you there. So that takes care of the sub base. Just need to paint it and it's done, and I'll put it onto the sill unit. As the model's building up, the parts will go on. So that takes care of this video. Again, I thank you for watching, and I appreciate your time.